This is day 37 of mock interview with ChatGPT. So, good morning, ChatGPT.
Good morning. How's it going?
Everything's fine. I actually want to practice mock interview. So, can you role play with me? I'm applying for the senior data engineer role.
Of course. Let's do it. I'll ask you a question and you can answer as if we're in a real interview. After each response, I'll give you feedback. Ready to jump in?
Yes.
Great. Let's start with a common question. Can you describe a challenging data engineering project you worked on and how you approached solving the main challenges?
Okay. In my previous project, which is build a foundational a framework such as cloud data sourcing for the data lake. There was a problem about the available IPs for the glue jobs to be allocated. So essentially, the CIDR we use is slash 26. So, um, and we have three subnets in our VPC, which is which mean we have approximately 500 available IPs at one time. And so that is the design at the very beginning day of data lake at Tech Combine. But um, since our job grow exponentially, um, we encounter the problem um, that at one time there are many glue jobs running at the same time, and some of those will be failed because they can be allocated with because the available IPs is limited. So to deal with that, for the short-term solution, I implement a backup retry mechanism, and I also do the um, reschedule so that not many jobs can be run at the same time. And for the long-term solution, we essentially move to the uh, to CIDR slash 22, which have about six time, I mean, eight time the more available IPs. And to apply the long-term solution, we essentially have to talk with every system owners that we integrated to do the port opening and uh, security group grant permission. So that's a challenging and how I overcome it.
Thanks for sharing that. You gave a clear overview of the problem and how you tackled it. You identified the limitation with the available IPs and explained both your short-term and long-term solutions well. Highlighting the immediate retry mechanism and rescheduling to manage IP usage was a good strategy. It was also great that you mentioned the long-term fix of expanding the CIDR block and coordinating with other teams, which shows strong collaboration and foresight. For improvement, try to be a bit more concise and highlight the impact of your solution, like how it reduced failures or improved efficiency. Overall, I'd rate this response a 7 out of 10. Good job. Ready for the next question?
Thank you. I'm ready for the next question.
Awesome. Here's the next one. How do you ensure data quality and integrity in your data pipelines, especially when dealing with large volumes of data?
Okay, to ensure data quality and integrity, there are some there are two aspects here. For the data quality, we must uh, we essentially conduct uh, testing and monitoring. We apply 5 to 6 different tests um, so that the pipeline before going live is reliable, and the monitoring is for when the data is at the operational phase is still provide quality data. And about the data integrity, we we use the right data modeling, and to apply the data monitoring at scale and robustly, we build a framework. And for every single job, we can leverage that framework, and we just write the configuration, including the source, the transformation, and the destination of the job. And that's how we did.
Great response. You covered both data quality and integrity well. Highlighting the use of testing and monitoring to ensure data quality is a strong point, and mentioning that you apply multiple tests before going live shows thoroughness. The focus on data modeling and leveraging a framework for consistent data integrity is also solid. To make your answer even stronger, you could briefly mention specific types of tests or monitoring tools you use, such as unit tests, integration tests, or data quality checks. Overall, I'd give this response an 8 out of 10. Nicely done. Ready for another question?
Yes.
All right, next question. Can you walk me through how you would design a scalable data pipeline for real-time analytics and what technologies you might use?
Okay, so for the real-time analytic, after I've done the business requirement to make sure that we are understand each other, um, and so by real time here, if the business requires streaming data, we essentially would want to, with extremely low latency, we essentially would want to use streaming technologies like Kafka for massive brokers, and uh, for example Apache Flink or Apache Beam for data processing. And that essentially what I would do to choose the technology appropriately. And for the real specific use case, I would I would want to design a pipeline with different uh, intermediate topics, so that the flow can be reused, and also um, is robust and maintainable and reliable for the whole data pipeline to run smoothly.
Nice approach. You did well outlining the initial step of understanding business requirements to determine the need for real-time streaming. Mentioning Kafka for message brokering and Apache Flink or Beam for stream processing is a solid choice for low latency requirements. Also, thinking about intermediate topics for reusability and robustness shows good design thinking. To enhance your answer, you could briefly touch on how you'd handle fault tolerance or scaling, and maybe mention how you'd integrate the processed data into an analytics platform. Overall, I'd rate this response a 7 out of 10. Great job. Want to keep going?
Yes.
Fantastic. Here's another question. How do you handle data security and privacy in your data engineering projects, especially when working with sensitive information?
Okay. To handle data quality, I'm sorry, data privacy and security, um, we let's I would want to separate that into two thing. First thing first, about the data security, I apply the least privilege per permission, so that each jobs can only uh, access to its appropriate resources, such as for example, we use IAM role to um, to operate those, and also for the data pri- for the data privacy, we would apply the PII masking and hashing, so that, and also with the lake formation, we would want to hide those sensitive data from the end user. um, and the job, at the job level, it can run on the real data, but for the end user to query those data on the table, it will be masked. And that's how I did to apply those.
You did a solid job breaking down data security and privacy. Emphasizing the principle of least privilege with IAM roles is a great approach to ensure only necessary access. Mentioning PII masking and hashing for data privacy, along with controlling end user visibility, shows a comprehensive approach. To make it even stronger, you could briefly mention encryption for data at rest and in transit, or any compliance frameworks you follow. Overall, I'd rate this response an 8 out of 10. You're doing great. Ready for another one?
Yes, I'm ready.
Awesome. Next question. Can you describe a time when you had to optimize the slow performing data pipeline? What steps did you take and what was the outcome?
Okay, so there was a job that um, that it took us about 2 hours to run, which is which is quite slow. So what I did was I looked at the Spark UI to um, to see if uh, there were any data skew, and also I decouple the job is essentially join between one fact table with 20 dimensional table, and essentially I would decouple the 20 dimensional table to another job uh, to pre-aggregate those into one pre-compute table, uh, and and I apply some Spark optimization on that. Uh, for example, I do the broadcast join those between those table. I apply the caching mechanism, and also I did raise the um, I raised the number worker, and that actually have the running time, but keeping the cost stay the same. So after doing that, I reduce the running time from 2 hours to 20 minutes.
Excellent. You clearly described the issue and the steps you took to optimize the pipeline. Checking the Spark UI for data skew and decoupling the dimension tables to pre-aggregate them was a smart move. Using Spark optimizations like broadcast joins, caching, and adjusting the number of workers clearly demonstrates your understanding of performance tuning. Highlighting the outcome of reducing the runtime from 2 hours to 20 minutes is impressive and shows the impact of your optimization. Overall, I'd give this response a 9 out of 10. Fantastic job. Do you want to go over more questions or anything else?
Thank you very much. I'm ready for the last question.
You're welcome. All right, here's the last question. How do you stay up to date with the latest trends and technologies in data engineering, and how do you incorporate them into your work?
Okay, that's really interesting question. So, as a data engineer myself, I love to learn new things and new technology. So, I my main um, social media is LinkedIn, and I follow a lot of uh, great data engineers to pick their brain, and they have actually a lot of useful information. And also, I love to read book and um, and learn from courses. For example, when I first uh, joined the team, I didn't, you know, deep dive into Spark, and I I learned from a course that Apache Spark fundamental, which helped me a lot in my work because I know the essential of the technology that I use, and that's and you know it's not like you can apply anything you read immediately, but somehow when you meet that requirements or you in those situation, you can it spark something in you that you read some of pieces information somewhere, and you can pick that up and you can apply it, and that is what I do to keep up with the technology and also practically apply it to my work.
Great approach. You highlighted multiple ways you stay current, like following industry leaders on LinkedIn, reading books, and taking courses. Mentioning how learning the fundamentals of Apache Spark helped you in your work shows a practical application of continuous learning. Your point about not applying everything immediately, but having a broad knowledge base to draw from when needed, is insightful. It shows that you're proactive about staying informed and ready to implement new technologies when the opportunity arises. Overall, this is a strong answer, and I'd rate it a 9 out of 10.
Thank you very
Fantastic job
much.
throughout the mock interview. Anything else you'd like to go over?
Thank you very much. I think that's all for today, and have a great one.
You're welcome. You did great today. Have a fantastic day and feel free to reach out anytime.
See ya.